here with you today on this Good Friday with a message that might be a little different than you might expect and different in some respects to previous ones I've done, but it's really important. Whether you were raised Christian like I was, whether you still practice religion, your Christian faith, or whether you never were involved in any type of Christianity, the story of the original Good Friday is really relevant to what's happening in our lives today. And it has huge potential impact on what will happen in your life and our collective lives going forward. So, again, whether you believe in Jesus or not, bear with me and hear the connection I'm making between that original Good Friday, the day that Jesus was crucified and died on a cross 1990 years ago, today's Good Friday, COVID-19, and money. Before I jump in, let's just take a deep breath. The whole purpose of these videos is to support you in these times where fear, scarcity, so much is rampant. It's in the waves, to just support you to connect with yourself, connect to something bigger than you, and remember that in this moment, right now, you're okay. You've got all that you need, including the oxygen that you can breathe in right now that gives you life. So you continue to just breathe in that rhythmic manner, and let me share with you some of my reflections. This time that we're living in is what, at least in spiritual traditions, is known as liminal space. It's this in-between time that has no clear trajectory or definition. It's a time of unknowing. All we know is that life isn't what it once was, and we don't yet know what it's going to be or when that's going to happen. It's the in-between time where we don't know what's going on. And generally, that's not a comfortable place for us to be. We fight it all the time. But we, both individually and collectively, have been thrown into it, like it or not, big time. Now, way back 1990 years ago, on the day that Jesus, who Christians believe is the Son of God, was crucified, Jesus's friends and followers, his apostles and disciples, were thrown into liminal space as well. One of the most common, if it's a feeling or experiences of liminal space, is what one of my clients used to call feeling discombobulated. Discombobulated. This is a discombobulating time. Now, what was creating that discombobulation for those apostles on that Friday, when this man that they had given up their lives to follow, that they called their master, their teacher, the one who was going to lead them, and some of them even called him the Son of God or the Son of Man, he had been crucified. He was dead. Their world had imploded, very much like ours has. And they didn't know what the heck had happened or where the hell to go now, pardon my expression. The bottom had fallen out. And what really discombobulated them was because how things turned out was not how they thought they were going to turn out. Like Jesus, in dying, didn't follow their plan. Really important here, because right now many people are going, me too. Wow, things didn't quite turn out the way I thought they were going to turn out. Good morning, Tina. So here we are. The apostles, Jesus's followers are going, what the heck happened? Because how they saw it playing out with Jesus being this master, this teacher who they believed was the Son of Man, the Savior, the Messiah, was he was going to overrule. He was going to take over and defeat the Romans, who were the rulers at that time. He was going to take over. They were going to suddenly be in power, and they were going to defeat the Romans and all of that. That was how they saw it playing out. They understood power as coming from like the externals. Now we're in control. We're ruling the people. We're the ones who sets the policies. We're the ones who determines what happens. They had their sense of security, power, even freedom associated with being in power in the external world, of taking over. It was based on the external situation. And that clearly, like that dream, that idea, their plan died when Jesus died on that cross. Discombobulating. You ever had that where you thought your life, or you thought this is where things were going to go and how they were going to shake out, and then, oh no, not even close. And here's the thing you need to know. This is very different than those of us who were raised Christian. And we know the rest of the story, that 3 days later, Jesus is going to be raised from the dead in the resurrection. We know there's an Easter coming. But the apostles back then, they didn't. Or if they did, they totally forgot or didn't trust in it. They were completely discombobulated because their plan for power in the external world had blown up. See, they thought the externals was what gave them power, freedom, security. Jesus understood it very differently. Jesus understood that the real source of power, security, and freedom came from within. It was in our knowing, him knowing himself as a child of God. It was in his connection with the creator, the source of life, what he called God the Father. That was his source of power. That was also his source of love. And love, my friends, is the ultimate power, because love and fear cannot coexist in the same space. He understood power and security and freedom very differently than how his apostles thought of it and the way we think of it in our world, in our collective culture. Now, his apostles thought the power was going to be by taking over the government and defeating the Romans and waging battle and winning. In our world, we oftentimes associate the source of power and security and freedom with money, which is why this economic collapse is freaking so many people out, and they feel so scared. Now, I'm clear we need money, okay? But our whole system, our whole lives, and I get this one, like they're revolved around money. We have a consumer economy. We need to have money to spend money because that's what keeps the wheels of the power system, the power structure running. I lost my train of thought there. We've grown up with this this understanding of this American dream, which, if you think about it, is always about having more. And originally, it was about having more in the sense of a quality of living. And over the past few decades, it's really gotten narrowed down to having more money or more material things. And it's this ever pursuit of more. And we think that having enough money for our retirement, and having money in savings, and making lots of money, and having a nice home, and all of those things are what creates security and freedom and abundance and power in our lives. And a lot of that in this pandemic has been exposed as broken, because we bought into that game. We've done it. And now what? And now what? We as Americans, because we're the John Wayne, Jane Wayne, we're the pull ourselves up for the bootstraps, poverty to riches, work hard. We can accomplish anything. We're the best. That's our mentality here, especially in America. We've been so busy pursuing the American dream and the money that we think we need to feed it, or rebelling against that, and oftentimes settling for less money than would really, really support us. We've lost touch with the practice that Jesus also demonstrated in these holy days. On the night before he was crucified, knowing what was going to happen, he was scared. He was scared. He didn't want to die. He was human. He didn't want to go through that pain and that powerlessness. He didn't necessarily know he was going to rise 3 days later. And he asked, hey, can we change that plan? He asked for what he wanted. But ultimately, he surrendered to the bigger plan, what he called God's plan, in these simple words, not my will, but yours. He placed his power, his freedom, his security in the hands of the source of all life, told in Christian traditions, and God the Father. And even though he didn't know where it was going to lead, and even though it was going to be painful, he knew that was the real source of power. And only in that surrender and willing to go through it all did he and we experience the promise on the other side of life after death, that love conquers all, that when there is dying, there is also new life that follows. In a sense, Jesus anchored himself in abundance, as I define it, that knowing he was part of something bigger, more powerful, more loving than he, and he surrendered himself to it. Even though it was hard, even though it was scary, even though it was painful. He didn't try and wrest power back. No, let's run, or let's kill them so they can't take me away. No. He gave into what felt like powerlessness, or looked like it to his apostles, and anchored himself in real power. I'm clear that there's no scriptural basis for this, but here's how I look at it. Jesus wasn't caught up in what we would call the American dream right now, which is all about more and power and external power and control and all of that, and money that plays into that and gives us that. That was where those apostles were more bought into. Instead, the question that Jesus asked, always asked, and listened for answers to, and surrendered to, is a much deeper question that I invite you to enter into in these days of liminal space. What was the divine dream for him? What was the divine or God's dream for the world? That's the question. What's the divine dream for you? It comes from your spirit, comes from your soul, that maybe you shut down in pursuit of the American dream for so long. What's the divine dream for this world? Because it's not what's happening now. It's not even what was happening before the pandemic, with so many people hungry and starving and suffering and underemployed, and people not having a minimum wage, and the wage gap and the income gap and the inequalities and the injustices and the prejudice and the polarization that we've been experiencing. That's not the divine dream for the world or for you. This Good Friday, I find myself being invited into that discombobulated liminal space even more. Going deep, asking myself, what's the divine dream for me? How does God want to work for me, with me, through me, to serve the divine dream of love and life and abundance for all, for this world? What's my part in that? And even if it may not look like how I might want it to go, am I willing to say, moment by moment, yes? Not my plans, but yours. Not my way, but yours. Not my will, but yours. Because this abundance that we were created from and we live in, this God, this divine spirit, this source of life, always, always, always is about new life, resurrection, and love conquering all. It's that connection, it's that surrender, it's that trusting in that, it's that being willing to participate in something bigger than you, that blesses you, but also blesses others. That, my friends, is the real source of power and peace and security and freedom, even as everything we've ever known externally is collapsing and falling apart. Will we be part of creating new life from this? Will we be part of creating a new relationship with money from this? Will we use this time of liminal space to connect more deeply with ourselves and our spirits and our connection with the divine, however you do that, to ask ourselves the question, how is the divine wanting to work for me, with me, and through me in this time? Not what's the American dream, not what's the apostles' dream, but what's the divine dream for all of us, individually and collectively? And will we say yes to that, even when we can't see yet what it is, or when the resurrection will begin? Those are the connections that I wanted to share with you today. I would love to hear any comments, questions, feedback, ahas you've gotten Just a different twist on this Good Friday entering into Easter time. Because we're living it, my friends, right now. We're living it. Are we going to live it like Jesus did? Trusting, connected, saying yes? Or are we going to be like the cowering apostles, afraid and trying to save themselves and feeling like everything's fallen apart and they're lost? Can we, knowing what happened 1990 years ago, trust in the midst of this liminal space, resurrection, new life is wanting to emerge, and we're part of that happening. Blessings on you all. Happy Easter if you celebrate that. Happy Passover if that's the tradition you're celebrating. If nothing else, have a blessed and safe weekend. Bye.